The little girl's trembling voice carried more weight than the storm that had passed the night before. She stood beneath the bright morning sun, holding a small backpack with both hands, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. Her words were simple, but they struck like lightning. "My dad wants to see you." Those 6 words would pull a struggling single father into a world of unimaginable wealth, hidden regrets, and a secret that had been buried for years. What began as one act of kindness on an ordinary afternoon would become the turning point that changed 2 broken families forever. Before we continue, if you believe in second chances and the power of kindness, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel Heart of Resham. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories that remind the world compassion still exists. 36-year-old Adrian Mercer had spent the last 5 years raising his 8-year-old son, Noah, completely alone. Since losing his wife to a sudden illness, every sunrise had become another test of endurance. He worked as a furniture restorer in a quiet town, where every paycheck disappeared almost as quickly as it arrived. His tiny rented house stood at the edge of a peaceful neighborhood, surrounded by old maple trees, where children still rode bicycles under the warm daytime. Sky and neighbors greeted one another with genuine smiles. Life was never easy. Yet Adrian had promised himself that Noah would never feel unloved, even if he could never afford the things other children had. Adrian believed that kindness was the only inheritance he could guarantee for his son. Every morning before work, he packed Noah's lunch, walked him to school, and reminded him that a person's heart was worth more than any amount of money. Noah admired his father because, despite carrying constant exhaustion in his eyes, Adrian never stopped helping people. He fixed elderly neighbors' broken chairs without charging them, delivered groceries for people who couldn't leave their homes, and often skipped meals so Noah could enjoy his favorite pancakes on weekends. One bright spring afternoon, Adrian closed his workshop early after receiving a call that Noah had joined a friend's birthday celebration. With a few unexpected free hours, he decided to drive through the countryside before heading home. The roads were calm, birds filled the air with cheerful songs, and sunlight reflected off the fields stretching toward the horizon. It felt like one of those rare, peaceful days when the world seemed to pause. As he turned onto a quiet road lined with oak trees, Adrian noticed a young girl sitting alone beside a bus stop bench. She couldn't have been older than 9. Her clothes were expensive but dusty, and her face was stained with dried tears. She looked around nervously every few seconds as though expecting someone who never came. Adrian slowed his truck. Every instinct warned him to be careful. Yet another voice inside him refused to drive away. He stepped out and approached slowly, making sure not to frighten her. The little girl looked up with frightened blue eyes but did not run. After patiently speaking with her for several minutes, Adrian learned only fragments of the truth. Her name was Amelia. She had become separated from the people she was traveling with after wandering away during an unexpected stop. She remembered her father's first name but not any phone numbers. Her expensive smartwatch had broken after falling onto the road. Hours had passed and nobody had returned. Adrian contacted the local police immediately. Officers explained that severe traffic delays caused by the previous night's storm had complicated several missing person reports. They asked Adrian to bring Amelia safely to the nearby station while they continued searching. Unfortunately, another emergency involving a highway accident required every available officer. They apologized and asked Adrian if he could care for Amelia for a few hours until investigators arrived. Social workers were also delayed because several communities had experienced flooding. Adrian hesitated only briefly before agreeing. He understood what fear looked like in a child's eyes. Back at his modest home, Noah welcomed Amelia without hesitation. He offered her his favorite storybooks, a warm lunch, and the comfortable chair near the window where sunlight poured into the living room. For the first time that day, Amelia smiled. The afternoon passed quietly. Noah showed her the vegetable garden he and his father had planted together. They chased butterflies through the backyard and laughed while feeding birds. Crumbs of fresh bread. Adrian watched them from the porch, realizing how easily children accepted one another without questioning family names or social status. As evening approached, the police called again. Search teams were still working, but weather-related communication failures continued slowing everything down. They asked Adrian if Amelia could remain safely at his home overnight while officers continued. Coordinating with neighboring counties, Adrian prepared the guest room that had remained empty since his wife passed away. Amelia quietly thanked him before falling asleep almost immediately, clutching the small stuffed rabbit she had carried all day. Noah whispered that she looked less frightened than before. The following morning dawned bright and peaceful. Golden rays of sunlight filled the kitchen while Adrian prepared breakfast. Pancakes, fresh fruit, and warm cocoa filled the room with comforting aromas. Amelia appeared happier, though a sadness still lingered behind her smile. Then, shortly after breakfast, a line of black luxury vehicles slowly entered the narrow street. Neighbors stepped outside their homes in disbelief. Men wearing dark suits exited the vehicles with practiced precision. Security personnel quietly spread across the neighborhood while one distinguished, older gentleman stepped forward, carrying visible relief on his face. Before Adrian could ask what was happening, Amelia ran toward the man with tears streaming down her cheeks. She embraced him tightly. The gentleman knelt, holding her as though afraid she might disappear again. Moments later, he turned toward Adrian. His expression held gratitude, but behind it rested something far heavier, something deeply personal. He walked closer, removed his sunglasses, and spoke only one sentence. "My daughter told me everything." Adrian expected a simple thank you before the wealthy family returned home. Instead, the man extended an invitation. He asked Adrian and Noah to visit his estate that very afternoon. Adrian politely declined at first. Men like him rarely belonged in places owned by billionaires. His worn work boots, faded jeans, and weathered hands seemed completely out of place beside polished luxury cars. Yet Amelia gently took Noah's hand. She smiled at Adrian with quiet sincerity. Then she softly said the words that would change every life involved. "My dad wants to see you." Adrian looked toward the billionaire father standing beneath the clear blue sky.